In this lecture, let's talk about the importance of translating technical terms into plain English. Let's be straight. You get paid according to your gratuitous vocabulary. If you go to the doctor and he says, "Wow, Shad, you busted your hand," I'm going to say, I think I want a different doctor. If he says, "Mr. Farrell, you have a fracture of the metatarsal," well, hey, I like that guy. He's got the vocabulary. So there's lots and lots of technical terms. I go to buy tires and the tire person says, "Blah, blah, blah, tires" to me. And I say, "Yeah, I have a secondary zone that needs zone transfer." He says, "What?" I say, "Exactly. Just tell me how much it costs and where do I sign?" When you're studying, you need to make sure that you translate these technical terms into plain English so that when you're in the middle of an exam, you're not struggling with an unfamiliar term trying to think, well, what does that do? A good rule of thumb is if you need more than a few words to explain something, you don't know what it does. So let's take a look at some examples and see how this works in practice. So I've put up some common acronyms for you that you might be familiar with. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. DNS is the Domain Name System. ICMP is Internet Control Message Protocol. And PKI stands for Public Key Infrastructure. Now, does any of that tell you what these things do? If I'm sitting in the middle of an exam and somebody starts asking me about DHCP, yeah, I can come up with Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, but how is that going to help me answer the questions? So if I were writing down, if I didn't know what this stuff does, knowing what those letters stand for pretty much don't help us. So I want to make notes that reflect what these things do. One or two plain English words that will quickly come to mind when I see an acronym telling me what it does so that I can translate the question into English. For DHCP, I'm going to put down centrally distributes IP addresses. That's what it does. It gives out IP addresses. And DNS, what does that do? It resolves names to IP addresses. I put in www.yahoo.com and I get back an IP address. ICMP is used for troubleshooting. Connectivity troubleshooting. It's got the ping command in there, trace route, but that's what it does. It's used for troubleshooting. And PKI, that's just a fancy name for certificates. You also want to make sure that you get concepts down very succinctly. What is Active Directory? It's a database for central control of security. What is group policy? It's central management of computer configurations. What's a site? It's a geographic location. You see that I'm not actually writing out full sentences. If I have to write out full sentences, I'm really not grasping what's going on. I need, just a very few words that are going to tell me what it does. Geographic location, that's perfect. It's something very succinct. It's not even a complete sentence that describes what it does. Because ultimately, in the test, I get into a test and I'm like, I don't even remember my name, let alone what this acronym means. So I need to have a very succinct filing system in my head that I can go to, run it up, say, okay, here's the, mental index card for site. Well, it's a geographic location. And then I have just a few bullet points mentally in that category with the relevant thing that I need to know about sites. If I don't know that, if it's not on my mental index card, it's too late to do it in the exam. In an exam, never guess something you've never heard of. You may see distractors in there that sound great, like the Active Directory Site Containment Wizard, and you're like, whoa, there's that word wizard. It sounds really technical to me. Maybe it's the right answer. If you've never heard about it before the exam, don't pick it in an exam. It's too late to learn it in the middle of the exam. So you're going to go with what you know. You're going to play to your strengths. And to be able to play to your strengths, you've got to have some strengths to play to. And the way you make yourself strong is by making the information that you study useful information to you. You know very simplistically what it does. If you have to choose meanings and you really don't know what something does, here's a little trick with Microsoft. You can almost always take the last word of something, move it to the front, and you know what it does. For example, remote access. It's for accessing things remotely. And I will call this the, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure answer, or the sarcastic answer, but it's true. What do domain admins do? They administer the domain. How about a group named clonable domain controllers? These are domain controllers that can be cloned. Backup operators operate backups. If you see something and you're like, I wonder what that does, look for the obvious meaning. Remember, this is an entire language that's backwards to English. It's object-verb. Well, a lot of the names are that way too. And I'll take the sarcastic answer all day long. You've got to be in control of your learning experience and your testing experience. The minute you're out of control of it, you're trying to speak in a language that's not genuinely your language, then at that point you're lost. You're in over your head. So I want nice, plain language that's going to come to me in a stressful situation. And And the exam is a stressful situation, but so is doing the job. So if you're going to be in technology, you're really like a firefighter. People are going to be calling you when things aren't working, and you've got to get things fixed and get things back up and running. Well, you need to be able to have something useful and practical under your belt at that point, and having plain language to describe things is the start of having that information as to which tool to go to fix something. So if I say, well, what's the most important thing about network connectivity? Well, it's that I'm connected to the network. Gosh, in that case, I need to troubleshoot network connectivity. Let me go into ICMP and use my ping command. Even though you might think computers are a kinesthetic language, I do things on the computer. Well, they're also a language. In how you talk about the computers is going to focus your thinking, and your thinking is then going to focus your actions. And remember, the test itself is a language test. A lot of it is a reading test. So if you begin to organize your mind, how you think about things, how you write it down, then you're going to come up with a better answer. Keep your knowledge short and study efficiently. That way it'll be useful to you, and you can pick out key words, translate the question into a language that's comfortable for you, so then you know what you're being asked and you can provide the correct answer, or at least steer yourself away from answers that are incorrect.